What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I am Britt Devine, and we're going to have some fun talking about last night's basketball, last night's MLB, and basically going over, hey, what did some of the good players do? What did some of the bad players do? What did the field do? And see if there's anything we can do to try to figure out how on earth do we play today's basketball slate when we really don't know any news or anything like that at all today. But we're going to have some fun. This is an interactive show. If you're on the YouTubes, chat with us over there. If you're on the RotoGrinders page, you can chat with me over there. I see Shawnee Max in there talking about Dino. Dino had himself a nice GPP day, playing 10% of everybody a couple of days ago. So congrats to Dean on that one. But this show we're going to be looking. I didn't see Dean shipping any tournaments last night. He should have rode the hot streak. He probably just cashed out, and had himself a nice day over at the Costco. But, congrats to Dean on all that. And we're going to have some fun basically checking out the contest from last night and sort of seeing what won you some money today. If you're over on the YouTubes, click the like button. It helps the suits like it. The algorithms like it. And if you want to get notified whenever RotoGrinders is live, click that subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it. So if you guys, let me know, what do you guys want to talk about first? The first person to respond in the chat, baseball or basketball from yesterday? What do you want to talk about? And we can start going over. I got baseball pulled up from the relay throw. I've got basketball pulled up from the shoot around. And we can have a good time. I got a couple of the top players and some really differing strategies that people use, throughout the day on basketball. But I guess I'm going to start with basketball. I've pulled up the Tuesday shoot around, and the first thing I always like to do is see what won. And congrats for taking down $100,000, Rayflow. Rayflow, you're not on RotoGrinders, dude? Come on over, become a member if you're out there. But you're $100,000 richer today. And taking a look at his lineup, it looks like the big thing was Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook was. I'm actually surprised he was only 64% owned by the field. I was expecting 70 or 80% when I pulled this up. But it looks like he faded Russell Westbrook. And then his key to victory, Keldon Johnson from the rafters with the top elbow, with the elbow drop, just absolutely ships him the $100,000. I barely knew who Keldon Johnson was until maybe 3 or 4 days ago. But at basically no ownership, dropping 44 fantasy points at 3,900. That was easily the key to his victory. You can see he won. Basically, no one else is going to have him. He also had Kyle O'Quinn. I was a little surprised, too. I don't think enough people are making use of late swap on basketball right now. You can see that Kyle O'Quinn was only 16% on minimum price, $3K on Draftkings. I know it's tough to use all those centers over there, but man, Kyle O'Quinn, 2 big keys to victory, low owned. You still, even on a 6 or 7 game slate, and tonight on a 4 game slate. Tonight, right when anything can happen in basketball, if you're playing these large field tournaments, don't be afraid to throw in a guy that's 1 or 2% owned that has a reasonable chance of something happening in that game, and then he gets more minutes. I can almost guarantee that's what's going to win these large field tournaments in basketball today. So if you are playing them that way, make sure to take a look at that. I've seen a lot of people wanted to talk baseball. I'll jump over to that. We had the relay throw. It was taken down. 2 people split the top prize, G-Man 888 and Weoaks. It looks like they had, let's see here, I believe the exact same lineup. Carson Kelly. Nope, they had different lineups, same score. So 2 people won over here. Dylan Bundy, what a season Dylan Bundy is having. Gets out of Baltimore and becomes an elite strikeout artist, really changing his picks mix up. The price was high. It led to reasonable ownership on him last night if you could buy in. And the double premium, haven't really seen that too often this year, but the double premium takes down the top prize over here. And I believe both had that combo. You really needed that. The two highest scoring pitchers. G-Man didn't really. I mean, I don't see a real stack here. He's got some Arizona. He's got some Colorado. He's got some Padres that were against a reasonably owned pitcher, right, to give him a little bit of leverage. I mean, if you can just pick the guys that have the big game every day. Great long-term strategy. Probably not how I would go about it, but I also didn't win $62,500 last night. I prefer a more strategic approach, trying to get some form of a stack. And on a big slate, what were there? 12 games last night. I would almost never run up, just basically trying to pick off home runs and things like that. But it worked. Weukes, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's what I'm going with. Sort of again, right? The two pitchers, it looks like the Sharks, right? Only Brick 75, not a lot of 150ers up at the top. So the stacks didn't really come through last night. So it looks like the casual player had themselves a pretty good night. Over here, two good pitchers. He had a couple of Rays, maybe a three-man Rays, a three-man Phillies, mixing in, a 3-3. Is that really going for it in a tournament? Not something I typically use. Worked out last night. Looks like the Sharks, a lot of them didn't really have too good of an outing here. Did any of you out there use the Scherzer Bundy? I was on Scherzer a little more than Bundy for cash games. I only played one or two tournament teams. I didn't have this combo. I sort of min-maxed or used Scherzer along with one of those mid-price options that didn't really pan out, right? Like if I go over to the ownership tab, let's go to pitcher and let's see what the field did at pitcher. So I was on Gonzalez a little bit. That didn't work. Lindblom didn't work out. Stripling didn't work out. None of these guys really worked out. And if you look at the fantasy points, I mean, you needed Bundy, you needed Scherzer. I don't think other than Zach Gallen, I believe he was the only other pitcher to score 20 fantasy points. So you basically had to have that combo, which I guess that sort of makes sense. So I see Mike in chat, and here's the thought process on this, Mike. Stacks should work. The thing is, when the pricing is a little tougher, it's okay to not just go all 5-3, all 5-2-1s, because then that's when you mix in the 4-3-1 or the 5-1-1-1, because when the stacks get so expensive, when you're stacking and you're forcing 5-3s in, it becomes too. You're just spending too much money sometimes on that. And you have to take two really horrible pitchers that are extremely unlikely to hit. And sometimes you can't even get that to work. So if the pricing on Draftkings or on Fanduel, it's always a little bit less. So you can still 4-4 and 4-3-1 there pretty easily. But when the pricing's tough, it's okay to vary. Now, would I just try to go like a 3-2-1-1-1-1-1, trying to pick all one-off guys? I would not play that way. That is a long-term, pretty unsustainable way, I believe, to play Major League Baseball tournaments on DraftKings. But I would be, more fine going 5 with all one-offs or like a 4-3-1 when the pricing on hitters is tough. It's easier for you to fit in good bats along with good pitching when the pricing's tougher, to go a little low on the stacks. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense for you. I just wanted to go over the ownership real quick of someone I would consider pretty good players. I want to know too, Broranosaurus Flex. He is on a heater of all heaters right now. Out there in the DFS world, he plays a lot of lineups, but he's having himself a good night. So I always like to see what are, at any given point in time, and I would consider a guy who's just crushing everything. We got a guy here on RotoGrinders. He was on the NBA Morning Grind. Andre, I believe his name is. He won $1 million. He's won 100,000. He's just winning all the time. You can go get his baseball takes on the Morning Grind today if you want that. But he's more of a FanDuel player than DraftKings, so I can't really bring him up here so much. But, like Scherzer, right? Everybody pretty much in line, or slightly above. I think that was a reasonable call. He didn't even really have a great game, but he got 24 fantasy points. And, we're still at this point in the season where there's not a ton of great pitchers, and two, these guys aren't really going deep. I thought Scherzer was a really great pay up, in my opinion. I thought that was a good play. I played Marco Gonzalez. Obviously, in hindsight, it didn't work out. 25% owned. I think he was around 6,600, something like that on DraftKings, right? And it worked. You got Scherzer, you got Gonzalez, and then you were able to get some of the bats that you wanted as well. Or you can go Bundy and Gonzalez. We had the roof closed. We saw the night before the roof was open in Texas. Texas gets spanked. And now he was pitching lefty against all those Texas lefties. It just didn't work out for him last night with the roof closed. I think that led to pretty increased ownership on him. The key, obviously, was Dylan Bundy, right? So it makes sense that the Scherzer-Bundy combo got there because these were basically the two known quantities that can just really post massive scores right now, and it really worked out if you had that combo. You can see Brick 75, he was overweight a little on Scherzer, but double the field on Dylan Bundy, and it's no surprise, Brick 75. I'm going to bring up his top lineup, right? Someone who's 150ing everything on every site with his own systems to do everything that he wants to do. What did his best lineup look like? So he had those two, and then it was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Milwaukee, 2 Chicago, and then 1 Boston player, right? 5-2-1. And that's what allowed him to get the 2 best pitchers. He didn't go like trying to pick all one-offs, right? Long term, that is unsustainable trying to do that. But his lineup makes a lot of sense. 2 really good pitchers, a bunch of low-owned bats. He had a really good tournament day here. Still took 2 zeros, right? Very hard to do that. But it's just he was on bats in this particular lineup that nobody else had while having the chalky pitchers, right? I like that sort of makeup, right? You never want to have all the chalk. You never want to have a whole team, right? He didn't need 2 5% owned or less pitchers on this team, right? So I like what he did on this lineup. If I go and look at his next other lineup that did well, it was Bundy and Gonzalez, right? So again, 2 higher owned pitchers, and then he's just on stacks, that was a low owned. He had the Angels, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he basically had a one-offs, right? So you can see he's mixing, probably because the salaries are tough, not just jamming 5-3s. He had a 5-2-1. He's got a 5-1-1-1. This is smart. I like what he's doing on here. If you study some of the best players, they do this quite a bit. I like all the variants, and you'll notice as the salary gets a little tougher, you'll notice they vary their stacks quite a bit more. If the salary was easy, I would almost guarantee on a 12-game slate they would have a 5-3 preference on their stacks, but just wasn't really possible last night, and it sort of bears out. And what I would consider one of the better DFS players out there, at least their top 2 lineups, their lineup construction on this one. A couple other guys I always like to look at, Brandon Adams. I don't think he had 100 lineups in this one, but he was overweight. Marco Gonzalez and Ross Stripling. RIP Brandon Adams, smart guy. Last night, it just didn't go his way. Welcome to DFS. Very hard to win every single night. If you can, congratulations. If you're Andre, that's on the morning grind. I don't know how he does it, but he's shipping things every single night over there. Very hard to do that in DFS. And then he was a little underweight Scherzer. He was overweight Lindblom. I guess that was okay at that price, but it's not going to win you a tournament or anything like that. But hey, on your own, right? If the early show, the pregame show isn't on RotoGrinders, go through Results DB. It's a great tool. It's usually updated by 11 or 12. You can just pick out a couple of players, see what they're doing, see what won, try to figure out where you're to. One of the things you can do too is lineup HQ. You can sort of go back in time and create, lineups from yesterday too, right? Like if I go to Fanduel and I've got baseball pulled up, well, up here, right, I can go back to yesterday and I can try to win. I can try to win yesterday's slate if I want to on yesterday. You just go back to it, start playing around. You can maybe even see some of your old exposures too. And you can have yourself a good time in lineup HQ and try to recreate. See our projected ownership still in here so you can mess around with that. If you're trying to be a better fantasy player, just reading all the as good as Cheese's article is, as good as Andy's article is, as good as Crunch Time is, as fun as this show is, as good as everything else is here on RotoGrinders, right? Use the tools of your premium members. Go back and try to recreate the lineup. Specifically, if you're MMEing or you're using lineup HQ to do it, you can go try to win last night. If I would have done XYZ, right, would I have won? No, I still didn't get there. If I would have locked in Dylan Bundy, right, with the stacks that I wanted, would I have won? Maybe, all right? So you just try to figure out what you're doing. And, I always kind of preach a consistent process, night in, night out, is sort of how you get there in baseball today. I see some of you in chat. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on RotoGrinders, click the like on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. If you want to know when all the shows coming up here, by the way, too, right? I've been doing a couple of those best ball shows. We've got an underdog show right after this one. If you're playing best ball, It's DB is going to be hosting. There's a best ball show, live draft on Underdog if you want to get any takes on that. And then right after that show, so that would be noon. And then at 1, there's a best ball hot take show with Jamino and a couple other people where they'll really go over and kind of what's happening in football to get you up to speed if you've missed anything on that. So right after this show, 2 more hours of free live shows right here on RotoGrinders, and you can get all of your best ball itches. Draftkings got it. Underdogs got it. There's Drafters. I'm over on there. Fanduel. Yo, dude, Fanduel. Come on. You bought Draft. There's no best ball. I have an inkling. Maybe it's coming from Fanduel. Hopefully sometime soon, I would hope. It would be sad to see that go to waste if they didn't use it over there. But best ball is going to be an enormous thing moving forward in DFS now that DraftKings and hopefully FanDuel has it, and you have Underdog as well. You're going to want to get in on this. And I will tell you right now, DraftKings, best ball, I've seen a couple tweets on it. It's literally like playing DFS in like 2013. This is how soft it is compared to what you're typically used to in DFS. So I encourage you, if you want to try to make some money and want to have fun drafting, to go check out the DraftKings. I think it is extremely soft over there at this current point in time. What do you guys want to talk about? We can go over a little more strategy. I can go over how to do stuff in Lineup HQ. I can talk about tonight. Hit me out. What do you guys want to do in chat? Let me know. I'm here to please, and very interactive show we like to do here. So please, give me some thoughts on what you guys want to talk about. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of switch back around, and I'm going to go back into the NBA zone. So we had Squirrel Patrol. Shout out to him last night. Took home, I believe he got another live qualifier. And I always like to see, did anybody lock players in last night? So Dink didn't. Chess almost did. Wakey definitely does. That's how he likes to play. I can almost guarantee you that, right? But Squirrel Patrol, he's on a lot of the shows here on RotoGrinders now. And one of the things he always talks about is he pretty much just never locks in a player, because you want to give yourself a shot at a lineup that is just, you have the ability to still win even if the player you really like doesn't have a good night. So you can see he was 92% Lillard, 80% Westbrook. Chess is okay, just really almost like a near fade of Russell Westbrook. And, man, that should have paid off for him big time there. But, yeah, always interesting to see what some of the best players do night in, night out, what they are on the field, right? Westbrook was the highest owned. Lillard was next. Squirrel Patrol almost locks him in. Chess almost locks him in. Luka, Squirrel Patrol, almost no Luka, right? Like, how do you come up with things like that? What makes you decide to do things like that? And Luka had himself an okay game, but he was no Damian Lillard last night with 84 DraftKings points, right? So that looks like this was probably one of the main reasons Squirrel Patrol ended up having himself quite the day, and winning that live final seat, because he made the stand. It worked out for him. So a big congrats to that. Let's see. It looks like everyone wants to talk about tonight. Looks like baseball early slate. So I'm playing the early slate. I haven't done enough. I've spent a little bit of my research on, let me see if I can find the early slate, if it's even up on Fan. Oh, you know what the problem is? I'm on yesterday. Let me bring that up here. I'll bring up DraftKings as well. What site you guys playing? I'm playing both. Haven't really looked too much about the MLB early, but let's take a look at it, and we can kind of go through what's happening. I've got the Bat X pulled up here. This is sort of what I use. I certainly don't always agree with it. More than capable of making decisions on myself. Looks like we have Carrasco against the Cubs. I have not checked the weather in that game. I'm going to guess if Carrasco's popping, wind in that early game, or it's blowing in, and oh no, it's in Cleveland anyway. But it's nice that the wind's blowing in there. Carrasco, decent favorite. I think he's pretty good. Always tough to get a read when they without lineups on that one, but I think he looks pretty good here against the Cubs. The Cubs still can strike out. I would have no problem doing him. Hendricks against Cleveland. Cleveland's been one of the worst teams. You've got 2 good outings from Hendricks and then one against Cincinnati. The nice thing about Hendricks, right, is he can go deep. We know that. And on, teams are using their bullpens more. So getting a pitcher that is able to just go deep in a game makes some sense. I like Griffin Canning, a little bit different pitcher, right, than Bundy. But against the A's, we just saw the A's can certainly pop off for some strikeouts at any given point in time. They can certainly hit some home runs, but I think Canning is a pretty reasonable out there. I like him. Probably wouldn't mess too much with some of the other guys out there. So it looks like, at least on FanDuel, I'd be eyeing Carrasco, Hendricks, and then probably Canning as my 3 favorite pitchers out there. The DraftKings 2-game early slate, I will not be playing the 2-game early slate. Dude, I mean, look at this. Just, do you really want to do this to yourself at pitching, right? Paying $9,400 for Chris Bassett in a 2-game early slate? I don't know. I would play Canning. I mean, it's tough. You don't want to play a Coors pitcher. Good luck. I don't have too many takes on the DraftKings slate. I didn't like it. It was 2 games. I'm on FanDuel. They got all the games. They've got 5 of the early games. That's where I'm choosing to play my early stuff. In terms of bats, let's go to the starting lineups page. We'll see what we got over here. Of course, if you're on FanDuel, right, you got Coors. That's going to be where all the chalk lies. It's 94 degrees out in Coors. Don't pay any attention to the wind. You got, Charlie Blackmon's hitting 500. If he hits over 400 in the shortened season, that would be pretty great. But Weaver and Senzatella, I have no faith in any of those guys. I would really be focusing on bats and Coors. Basically, Coors, except for maybe 1 game this year, has yet to live up to expectations. It can be 2-0 going into the 9th inning, and the game ends 11-7. I love Coors. When you get into the bullpens, anything can happen there. So, of course, absolutely no problem getting to them. The bats, I think the Angels, right? If the Angels roll out sort of their A lineup, I think they look pretty good against Bassett. And I would much rather, I think, take the Angels than the A's. Yet to see where ownership lies on that one, but I think the Angels are looking like a pretty good stack this morning. Probably would be avoiding the Indians or the Cubs unless you're playing game theory and we come out with enormous ownership on Carrasco over on FanDuel or something like that. Then maybe you can mix in the Cubs, but this game just looks like 2 good pitchers that can limit damage, that can, at least in Carrasco, and get some strikeouts. I don't really see myself wanting too much of that game in terms of bats, unless, of course, you're playing the leverage of, going up against the opposing pitcher. We got the Blue Jays. They're looking pretty good. Biggio and Bichette, those guys have been pretty good all season long. I think you can go to them. If Travis Shaw's in there, he looks like he's going to be cheap on the FanDuel early slate. Teoscar has been great to start the season. This is looking pretty good. Don't forget, this is in Buffalo. Right, this game's in Buffalo, and I believe they just fixed the orientation. Don't quote me on this. You can check the weather report from Roth when he gets it all up. But I believe the temperature and the orientation of the park has been fixed for Toronto, so this should be accurate for Buffalo. So don't forget, it's out there, minor league ballpark. I like some runs out there. Projects pretty good if you I believe Cardi had a thread on that as well. Really liking the Blue Jays offense, especially, I don't know if we're going to have their lineup when the early slate locks, but they're looking pretty good against Yamamoto in the bullpen. And then, of course, Cincinnati, 84 in Cincinnati. It's humid. It's not raining, but it's really humid. The entire Northeast, I can just tell you, it is hot and humid basically all over the Northeast. And Brad Keller, right? Sure, righty on righty, but Suarez, Castellanos has been great. Votto, the top of that Reds lineup's looking pretty good. And the Royals, they've more than paid off a couple of times this year against Wade Miley, just a bunch of tough righties. I think you can do that. So probably the only teams I'd be avoiding, I guess, would be the offense in this Indians-Cubs game. Don't really like the Marlins. And not thrilled on the A's. I do like Canning as a pitcher. But if the A's do come in low-owned, right, you have the people, oh, man, they sucked last night. Bundy went through them. People are going to be using Canning. I think, as much as I would be okay using Canning, I think you can make a case for an A's stack as well. They have plenty of power to basically do it whenever you want. So that's a quick take on the early slate. Do you guys have any more specific questions on the early slate? Again, I'm choosing to play on FanDuel for the early slate. They got 5 games. I have very little interest in a 2-game baseball slate when one of them's in cores. That is not what I like to play. So I have decided to play on Fanduel for the early slate. I'd like to talk basketball with you guys, but guys, I got to be honest with you. Not really much to talk about. Even Meansy, right? I read his article this morning. Even Meansy copped out because we just don't know. The totals have finally come in, but it's going to get, as 2-3 o'clock approaches, it's just going to get really wonky in injuries. And I would tell you, people are like, don't play basketball. It's too random right now. You want to embrace it. If you're able to stay on top of it, you want to play more entries. You want a 150 entry. You want to play more head-to-heads, especially early in the day, right? Let them soak overnight. Because if you're able to actually pay attention to it, your opponents might not. You might be able, you might free roll. There might be a guy in a tournament who's 10% owned that we know is going to play 10 minutes or not even play at all. This happens late season NBA. This is, if you can embrace the variance, this is when you want to play. There's no more free money in theory in NBA than at the end of the season because your opponents, right? 4 o'clock, people make their lineups at noon. They don't even look at them. They're at work, right? This is when you want to play basketball. Don't be afraid, right? As long as you're around, if you're able to stay on top of it, you're not really going to get a bigger edge in basketball than you are over these last couple of games of the, bubble regular season and things like that. So get in there, jump in, and if you can embrace the variance, I think you should probably play a little bit more if you have the means to do so. There's just a lot of money to be made if you're on the right side of things in basketball right now. Obviously, we have Harden. We have Harden projected on DraftKings for 70% ownership. I got to zoom out here, Devin, and refresh just to kind of make my whole page. Actually, let me see if I can rearrange this. Boom, here we go. All right, I got it. So we got Harden at 70% ownership. What are they going to do here with Harden? I think they're probably going to play him. It's really tough for, if we sort minutes projections, Indiana, right, they're going to do some funky things. I think you can project some of their crappier players for a lot of minutes. I think the Clippers maybe might want to be the 2 seed. Maybe you can project them for minutes. But, even though Houston, it's Harden without, I think a 33-minute projection is pretty good. And, he could play 27. He's not going to play like 40. I can almost guarantee that. But, really hard to not – I would probably just lock in Harden at 11-1. It's very unlikely. Look how many fantasy points more he's supposed to score than the next person. Usually it's not like that. It's hard for me to see winning if he even has 52 fantasy points tonight. Very hard for me to not see him being on the winning lineup. In late season NBA, I would be, I would have him in every lineup if I was MME and things like that. Again, make sure you can take advantage of late swap. Make sure you're around, right? Very, very important stuff at this time of the year, and you get a big edge. Imagine if you were able to swap to Kyle O'Quinn, right? Because you knew everyone on Philadelphia was going to be out. You get 1 million fantasy points at $3K on DraftKings. I mean, that 20% ownership. That sounds amazing, right? To be able to do that when 80% of the field doesn't, huge edges to be had. So make sure you're around. I believe we're going to have crunch time. Let me bring up the videos page. Let's see what we got going on here. We're going to have, it looks like a basketball show at 2:30. And then look at this guy. Look at this man right here. Basketball show at 2:30. And then we're going to have crunch time at 3:30. Must watch, right? We got in crunch time, we got the Ayton wasn't available news. As news breaks, right? The chat's all helping each other out. Make sure to watch that if you're a premium member. This is must watch towards the end of season. And probably the biggest edge you're going to get is simply just watching crunch time. Listen to the Meansy pivots as news gets haywire and trying to make sense of it all. So make sure to watch crunch time. What else you guys want to talk about here? We got a couple of minutes. We got lineup HQ questions. How do I do XYZ? If you want to look at the night slate, let me know what you want to do. We're having fun over here. Click the like button. We would appreciate that. Helps the suits be happy and helps the YouTube algorithms. Also, don't forget Best Ball. If you're an addict like me, over the next 2 hours after this show, at both noon and 1 o'clock, there are different forms of Best Ball shows. Make sure to tune that before NBA starts rolling in. If you're on sharp side, right, we got the streak thing going on over there. If you get 5 lock bets in a row, right, you start winning some free money on FanDuel. Start clicking buttons over there. Lock a bet in. Maybe you can get on the good side of that and start off your streak over there. I've got up to 4 a couple times, haven't hit that 5th. I want to get my free $10, but it just hasn't worked out for me yet so far. Let's see here. 3 DK pitchers you'll like. So maybe I'm going to assume that's the night slate because it's a 2-game early slate. So it'd be pretty hard for me to figure that out. So let's see. If you're out there, who was this? This is Keyboy DFS. Let's go to Draftkings tonight. This is where I've spent the majority of my research so far. Let me just get this on the screen for you. There we go. So we got my pitchers. Again, I'm using the BatX as my main projection source, and it's 11:30. A lot of things have not been updated on the projection. Even as good as Cardi is, right? Like these aren't set in stone 7-8 hours before lineup lock and things like that. But let's take a look here. Currently, right? Horrible slate again. Highest projection is 17 fantasy points from Zach Greinke. Barf. And then to top that off, Zach Greinke is 10-3. Double barf. So a guy not even projected for close to 20 fantasy points. It's against the Giants, but his velocity's down. I think I got plate IQ over here. So let's see. I noticed this morning. Let's go to Greinke. Recent trends. Again, this is for if you guys are premium members, you have access to all of this. So what I don't like about Greinke is over here. You can kind of see this was his velocity last year on his fastball, 90 miles an hour. I mean, he's like Madison Bumgarner. He's throwing 87.7 miles an hour right now. He's across the board. His changeup is slower. I don't like to see that. He's still getting it done a little bit, right? He's had a 1 good game, a 19, and a middling game and a bad game. I don't know. If I'm paying 10-3 for somebody on DraftKings, I want that guy to have some strikeouts and not be dipping in velocity. So that looks a little scary to pay 10-3. Zach Eflin is going to be the chalk of chalk. Horrible against lefties, okay against righties, but he's the key, 6,400. And he's the second highest projected pitcher on DraftKings, according to the bat. So Eflin's going to be ultra chalky. I can almost guarantee he's going to be easily the highest owned pitcher on DraftKings today. A couple guys I really like is I would much rather spend on Kenta Maeda than Zach Greinke. Maeda is, he is an actual good real life, good to great pitcher, can get some strikeouts. And I mean, his plate IQ is top notch. If we go to Minnesota, sure, he's against Milwaukee. Milwaukee sucks. They're having a very bad season. All their guys are striking out left and right. So this is like 19 and 20. If I just go to this year, I mean, you're not going to see basically a team more in the red than the Brewers right now. It's just red. Their whole team stinks. You see Maeda, really, really good overall even this year. And if we scope out to even last season and we go to the premium reports and we take a look at Maeda, right? Nothing's really velocity, same pitch mix, right? What do we like to see from our fantasy pitchers that's going to get us interested? To me, that is less fastballs, more breaking stuff. Smart guy. Maybe he got the memo. This is what you want to do. So not only is he good, but he's also around the same velocity. His pitch mix is changing to more breaking stuff, which is good. His changeup, right? He's throwing his changeup and his slider quite a bit. You can always go back to the regular dashboard, and if you want to see if those are as good pitches, right? He's throwing his changeup. Let's see here. Changeup, 237 WOBA allowed in his basically career. All green across the board on his changeup. And then the other one was the curve. That one's not so hot. Maybe that was right, but if he's throwing his changeup more and his fastball less, right? He's getting 34% whiff rate on his changeup, 20% whiff rate on the fastball. Pitch mix is changing to more of the breaking stuff. He's going to become a better fantasy pitcher with more strikeouts. really basically unhittable against righties, a 220 WOBA. Lefties don't really even touch him either. So like I know it's Milwaukee, but I'm going to tell you, to me, in my early analysis, Maeda, Eflin, that looks like the combo I'm sort of looking at this point in time, at least on DraftKings. If you have Dave Jones, welcome to the show. If you have a big GPP contest, is it okay to save salary and select lower-owned players like Kyle O'Quinn? Sure, especially right like on a normal slate. You got to think of this little bubble season, especially the end of it, much differently than the regular season of NBA, right? Where the stars are going to all play 35 minutes in that first part of NBA. Now, as we approach the bubble, it's chaos. So yes, it's okay. I would rarely leave more than like $300 to $500 on my NBA team if this was a normal situation. But if the pricing's cheap and every team's playing backups and all those backups are also cheap, I'm okay leaving $600, $700, $800 left over if I think Kyle O'Quinn has the ability to post the highest raw point projection of anybody in that salary range. It is okay to do that, specifically right now, right in the end of the bubble where minutes are going to be volatile for everybody. Projections are going to be all over the place. I'm okay taking, specifically, that guy's going to be a little lower owned too, and you think he has the ability to outdo someone who's 5 or 6 times as owned as him, and he's a little less, I'm okay doing something like that in tournaments. That makes perfect sense to me. So Dave, don't be afraid to do it. I wouldn't leave like $10,000 left on the board in NBA tonight, but if you have a lineup and you're staring at it and it just looks really good of guys that you think can produce with a good mix of high and low owned plays, and it's and you got $1,000 left, it's the end of the bubble. Embrace the variance and roll with it. I'm okay with that tonight. Let's see here. Anybody else? If you're in chat, answer me some questions. We probably got, 5 or 10 more minutes left of the show to have some fun. I can interact with you in any way, shape, or form that you would like as it regards to Lineup HQ, baseball, basketball, results DB, anything on RotoGrinders. Let's go. Shoot it into the chat. We'll have some fun here today. As far as bats, let's go to that while a couple of questions come in. Bats for tonight. So we got the Yankees. They look like they're going to be ultra chalky. I think it's probably best if I just go to the starting lineups page. Let's go to that. And let's hope that the totals have come in. I've got DraftKings up here. So it looks like most of the totals are in here. This Philly game looks really good against LeBlanc. Like 83 degrees and humid, right? Sounds great. We just got to see if this rain holds off, see what Ross says a little later in the day on that one. But the Phillies are looking pretty juicy. The Yankees are looking really good. I don't know what a Huascar Ynoa is, but he's pitching today for the Braves, and whatever they come up with out of the bullpen, I guess I would have to check and see what their plans are after that. But the Yankees are looking pretty chalky. Again, it's in Yankee Stadium. It's 83. It is very humid. The balls will be flying, in the Northeast today. I can tell you that. If they get a hold of one, it's going to travel a little farther than if it was 10 degrees hotter and it wasn't as humid as it is out there today. So that looked pretty good. The Astros, looking at their prices, depending on the lineup they run out, right? If Tucker and Reddick are up towards the top of the lineup, they look good. But it gets expensive to take a Bregman, to take a Brantley, and then get one of the two, Yuli or Correa. So their stack might not be as popular. The Yankee stack, though, right? Like Judge, 6,300. It is very tough for me to spend 6,300 on a singular bat in baseball. But it's also very hard to argue against about as lot close as you can get to a home run, as you can basically, call out on any given point in time. So I like Judge quite a bit today. The 6,300 price tag, pretty difficult. The other guys, Hicks isn't having the greatest season, but if you get, a couple of these guys and you mix in a Mike Ford, right, he gives you a little bit of salary relief, something like that. I like them. I do like the Twins every day. I already mentioned I like Maeda. He's going to be one of my favorite pitchers tonight. We don't have a total out here in the Mets game, but this is going to have to be a reasonably high total for Citi Field. Again, high temperatures, high humidity. The balls are going to be flying out there in the Northeast today. Either offense in this game looks pretty good. I like the Rays offense against Godley. That's looking pretty good too. These guys, right? Diaz, G-Man Choi, Kevin Kiermaier. These guys all have the ability to have big games, and they're so cheap that should really, to get a 3 and 4 combo, if this is the lineup that cheap, they're going to be really flying up the ownership boards, in my opinion, today. Specifically, if people are trying to spend up on Maeda and get a couple of other good, expensive bats out there. The Rangers, right? It really depends. Hey, what are you doing with the roof out there, boys? You opening it? You closing it? Got to see what they do. I don't have a particular take on this game. I know someone was talking about Taijuan Walker. Has himself one good game. Everyone wants to jump on it. Next game gets hit around. Next time he's out there. Guess it really depends. A little more inclined to use the bats if the roof's open. A little more inclined to shot take on the pitchers if the roof's closed. I always like the Dodgers offense. Davies is a reasonably good pitcher, but I think the Dodgers, you can stack them up every day. Just tons of firepower. Rays chalk tonight on Fanduel. Let's take a look at the main slate over here. I'll go to the starting lineups page. I've been using Brasal. He's been great for me the past couple of days on FanDuel, and he's been ultra cheap. Don't know if he'll be in the lineup today. So let's see. Meadows leading off. Lau, Yandy, Choi. I mean, how are these guys not going to be chalked? I think they're going to be a good mix of Rays and lineups today, and I have no problem. Like Meadows is great. Brandon Lau is great. Diaz, a little up and down. A bunch of these threes, right? These don't really, get you excited. But the 19.2 does, if he has himself a good game. He's had quite a slow start to the season. They're still going to give him good lineup opportunities. I'm going to continue to roll with him. I think he's a reasonably good play tonight. And then Choi or whatever else they put in the middle of that lineup. But don't sleep on like the Kevin Kiermaier, Tsutsugo, Zunino, right? Don't even sleep on those towards the bottom of the lineup. There's good baseball players all in that Rays lineup. I think you can play them a multitude of ways tonight on FanDuel. So yes, the 2 thumbs up, Mr. Kinder. Let me just make sure I didn't get any other questions. I think that's about it. I don't really have. You guys have any other questions or anything like that? I think I might call the end of the show here today, unless I see a couple more questions. Well, anyway, guys, it's been fun. You can check out the pregame show. It's usually either me or Blender. We're on maybe, 3 to 4 times a week. There's a jam-packed RotoGrinder schedule right now, so whenever time allows, we like to come out here, use the tools here on RotoGrinders, Results DB, Plate IQ, Lineup HQ, to get an idea of what your actual opponents in DFS contests are doing, and then all the premium stuff on top is absolutely amazing. Plate IQ has got to be it's like the single best tool for, in my opinion, research on a daily basis, right? And one, in theory, look, right? If you're not a premium member, you can't really see all of these things, right? But you can really see here quickly, Maeda is good. And specifically, right, if I go to this year, I can see just god-awful Milwaukee team. Yelich is just a shell of himself. I'm not convinced he's fully healthy. Everyone's striking out left and right? Like just total trash. Have a lot of fun with all the premium tools if you have access to it as a premium member. Washington stack, Keyboy DFS. Yes, 2 thumbs up on the Washington stack. Any good bats in the Northeast today, give them an uptick. And I'm sure the bat, as it updates throughout the day, the heat plus the humidity is extremely underrated in DFS, and the balls will be flying in the Northeast today. Top GPP pitchers, I'm going to go to Draftkings. I already mentioned Maeda. He is my favorite. I do expect him to start garnering a little bit of ownership when that comes out. I'm not in love with Greinke. I get it, but I'm probably going to be a little underweight on him. Eflin's going to be the chalk. If you wanted to swerve from him with someone like a Lyles or a Taijuan Walker, if the roof's closed, I think you can make a case for that. I'm not really on Blake Snell. One of these points, they're going to give him a leash. I don't think it's today. If he's just out here throwing 3 2/3, right? Literally, right? Pulled after 3 innings with 5 Ks and 2 walks, doesn't even give up a hit, and they still take him out. That's not someone I really want to spend a lot of money on. I would probably have 0 Blake Snell. I don't mind Tanaka. Knowing you have someone who has the ability to go 5 or 6 innings today is good, right? I think Tanaka's in play at a reasonable price. And then other than that, it starts to get real iffy. So I would spend up on one of those guys that I just talked about. All right, I think we're going to get on out of here. Thanks to everybody for watching. Again, click the like button on your way out of here. We appreciate it here at RotoGrinders. It helps us in the algorithms over on YouTube. If you want to subscribe, please do that. You'll get a notification of every show that's coming up. And speaking of shows that are coming up, we've got 2 hours of best ball coming up right after this at noon. Is going to be a underdog fantasy live draft with I think it's with Eric and with DB. So they're going to walk you through that. If you have any interest on underdog, check that out. And then if you really like best ball after that, at 1 o'clock, there's going to be a best ball take show. I'll basically get you up to speed on everything that's going down in NFL, along with all the cool products on DraftKings, Underdog, and everywhere else that's running best ball. So other than that, have fun tonight, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm Britt, and we out ya.